Hey everyone, welcome back to What Kind of Internet Do You Want? This is your Web3 Weekly Wrap-up. I'm Amy James.
I am Devon James.
And let's get into this week's news.
Let's. We won't be visited by the robot today. He's in the shop. So we'll be reading our own headlines.
Oh no.
I know. Hard stuff. He's getting an upgrade so he can maybe eventually do a little bit more than just
I'm excited
read
about
the
his
headlines.
upgrade.
But in the meanwhile, it's on us. So one of the big ones this week is that Twitter has been rebranded to X. And it's been met with strong opinions.
Indeed.
On the other side, some saying it was an absolute genius move. Some saying it was a completely bonkers, ridiculously stupid move. I think it's interesting that a lot of people are kind of underestimating why, or not really understanding why. And so he kind of put out a statement, Elon Musk put out a statement kind of explaining why. This has always been something that he referred to as the everything app. A lot of people use X to stand in for everything. We actually called DDX because it was a decentralized database of everything.
Right. That's what struck me right away is like, it's such like the engineer way to think about it. It's just like, oh, well, if you want it to be anything, then you call it X.
Exactly. And that's kind of his argument, that it's meant for more than just sending tweets, like he makes the whole point that like when you just sent these short messages, they were just little tweets between birds. And now you can post almost anything, including several hours of video. In the months to come, we will add comprehensive communications. Not sure what that means, probably video calls and stuff like that. Pretty cool. And the ability to conduct your entire financial world.
That is wild, right?
And from that point of view, it would no longer make sense to call it Twitter. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the feedback is pretty funny. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, he spent $40 billion and now he's destroying." Like, what did he spend the money on? Because it's not like he bought the code because he's gotten rid of most of it. It's not like he bought the talent because he's gotten rid of most of it. It's obviously not like he bought the brand because now he's shelved the brand. Honestly, I think he bought the social graph and the fact that it's considered the space for public conversations. It is the public square.
Yeah, I mean, one way to think about it is that he bought the database. He bought like, and all that it entails.
Yes,
and
all that it entails indeed, because in doing so, taking X as the name, he obviously wanted X as the Twitter account also. So he goes and looks it up, and there's someone that already holds that account, obviously, and he's had it for, I think it was like 16 years or something, and this tweet's a little bit absurd, calling it the most expensive username at all times. Give me a break. But I
wonder how many followers he had. Did he have a big following?
I don't know. I didn't look.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, now X has like 66 million followers.
But they literally just took the Twitter account and renamed it. They didn't start a new account kind of thing. So apparently Musk offered him 10 grand. He decided it was worth a lot more than that, and he asked for 10 million. And so, Musk just took it because, like you said, Musk bought the database, which means Musk controls everyone's social
root
accounts.
Access control.
Yes,
he can do what he wants. Take you, delete you, accelerate you, amplify you,
and this,
take your name.
Brings up the point of this is why we need decentralized social media. So one good example of decentralized social media is, of course, Lens, and Lens very much leaned into this by literally. So the guy that had X renamed himself to X 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 9 8 7 6 5, which is perfect for Lens because that's what most of their profiles joke.
Hilarious.
So they literally sent him a tweet and said, "Hey, we've got X.Lens waiting for you." Like they've got on their platform. My thing didn't work here. The account X, and they've kind of set it aside for the guy. So this is funny, and it's also like it made some people like, well, wait a minute. Doesn't that kind of show that you're kind if you've got this whitelisted, or white labeled list of accounts? How does a
decentralized network like?
Well, as I kind of learned in trying to actually get onto Lens myself, profiles are just another, in their case, just another name for a token, right? And it's a particular NFT token that you have to either get from an airdrop or get on a wait list to get it from them. Or if you're between those kind of things, you have to go to the second market and get it off of OpenSea. Well, what it actually means in the sense that you can't take the Bitcoin that's in my wallet and I can't take the Dogecoin that's in Elon's wallet, et cetera, because I control my own private keys. He controls his private keys. If you have any NFTs in your wallet, no one can take them from you, no matter who they are. So they obviously had whitelisted some accounts and they had them set aside for people. But once they give it to this guy, X, whatever his actual name is, they wouldn't be able to take it away. So it seems a little hypocritical in some people's point of view. I think it kind of is for them to have kind of pre-white labeled kind of names and stuff like that. But that, that's his marketing.
I mean, it definitely underscores the argument that there's a core team driving this project forward, the security conversation.
Because someone had to make the decision to send that tweet and make the offer in the first place. It clearly wasn't the protocol that made that decision.
Right.
But the point is, once that person has it, he then has control over it, and no one can take it away from him. And that would prevent someone like Elon from coming along and stealing it from him. So it's funny, but also it kind of does help solve the problem.
How do you send an X? Are you sending a sheet?
Oh, gosh.
Are you sending a zeet?
I think it's a zeet. I don't know. I mean, this is definitely the biggest weakness that was pointed out about the name is that tweets is a great verb that is derived from Twitter. What is the new one? Is it zeets? Everyone calling it a sheet.
Sheets.
I need to drop a sheet or whatever.
I gotta rip a sheet.
Is just hilarious. But you don't pronounce it xylophone, you pronounce it xylophone. So it's tough. I mean, X
President
as a
Xi,
leading... But that's a person's name and from a different country, who his name is actually in a different language. So how exactly we pronounce X, something X, and then rest of word is up for debate. I hope that they're going to come up with something better than you send an X. I think that's what he actually said, you send an X. And it's like, no, come on, that's just dumb. We need an actual verb here. So I don't know. That'll be okay. But it did actually lead to speculation because he talked about that it's going to be world payments and all this stuff, and he's always been a big fan of Dogecoin.
Obviously, Doge pumped.
It did pump. At the same time, they also got out of him why he's such a big fan of Dogecoin, and it really has nothing to do with its fundamentals or anything else like that. It has everything to do with literally just that he thinks it's funny.
Right.
So,
what is his like life motto? The funniest thing is most likely
to be
happen or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, just taking a look. We've got most of DePIN here in the middle here, and it's kind of in the red, probably just kind of correcting from last week's kind of movements. But down in what was normally Ethereum's place, I replaced Dogecoin, and it's down, unfortunately.
But check out that volume number there.
Oh, that's hilarious. You got to wonder if Elon did that himself. Anyone that's not noticing this or just listening, there's $420 million of volume on Dogecoin in the past 24 hours. And the guy, world's richest man, he certainly could spend $100 million to get it to exactly where he wants it to be kind of thing.
Just
I don't
for
know.
the lulz.
I think that's a coincidence. Probably most likely that is because otherwise it'd be 420 million point 69.
Right, obviously.
So, that's his thing. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I wouldn't say that Doge 10%ed up, but now it's kind of corrected back down. So
naturally.
I don't know if that really is going to have long-term lasting impacts. It seems like token reactions to news just don't last. They last
short term.
Right, price
it's
changes.
Just like stocks,
last.
honestly, in that same way.
Well, yes and no, because stocks don't have utility. Right? You can't do something with your utility. And the premise behind all these things is that they have utility, they can accomplish things. And if you're accomplishing something, you have actual inherent demand for it. It's not just speculative demand. And so because you want it in order to do the thing, whether it's to send your payments over Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, or other thing, with all the DePIN kind of stuff.
Well, I was going to say, you're going to take me down the rabbit hole of utility. Like, not everything is intended for utility. Is Doge intended for some sort of utility?
Yeah, the utility is payments. I know, and that's exactly why that's why the word utility got completely muddled and turned into nothing, because there is a utility there, but I think the whole premise behind the term, or the way people tried to use it, was it's a utility in addition to just the core premise that what blockchain can do or what Bitcoin can do. But the point is, it is a reason for there to be demand. It's not just speculative investing that it's going to be valuable in the future. It's like I actually need to use this in order to do payments, and thus I need to buy some, and thus I drive up the demand, and it drives. But the point is,
but that's not going to hold unless it was actually integrated.
Exactly.
Just on the excitement
that
it potentially would be integrated.
Exactly. So every time it spikes 10% on the rumor or the announcement, expect it's going to correct back down. When it actually gets implemented and there is an increase in actual demand, then we'll see actual long-term changes. Yeah,
Makes
exactly.
sense. Yep,
exactly.
absolutely.
Anyway, let's go ahead
All
and
right,
move
well,
on
let's
to
hop
our
into
next
our
article.
DePIN updates.
Dealing with DePIN.
Yeah.
It's not really an article.
DePIN is maybe has officially made it as a term now. It's being recognized in the broader industry. CoinGecko, in their categories tab, has a DePIN category. So you can now track the market caps of a bunch of different DePIN projects there. And so on CoinGecko, you can track the market cap. You can also look at web3index.org to track the real usage of the networks using it looks at it differently rather than market cap. It looks at the demand side fees. So it's just a cool way to look at DePIN projects as well and what's going on with how much they're being used.
And Web3 Index doesn't have all of these, that's for sure. I'll have to have that ready for next time. But so there's definitely some varying kind of boundaries around what is considered a DePIN project. So
definitely, that conversation
around that.
is
but the fact
actively
that it's
happening.
Nearly $6 billion worth of market capitalization. It's definitely a very important subset of the cryptocurrency market. That's very exciting.
It is and it isn't. Let me just pull up this Zeet here from. Isn't that what we're calling it?
We'll call it a Zeet for now.
What's the guy's name from Saya, formerly Saya?
David Vork?
David. Yeah, there he is. He tweeted, oh, okay. What the heck? Why aren't I following? Okay, I guess I'm going to have to, I don't know what's
he might
going
have gone
on.
private.
He's gone all of a sudden. This morning I saw a tweet from him that said that the average market cap, I don't know if it was market cap, of a DePIN project was 150 million. It was either market cap or it was
right.
like
Just looking
volume.
At these numbers. No, looking at these numbers.
Yeah.
Because this is the total trading volume on all of these is 230. And it definitely, I would say, just looking at this kind of right column, the market caps between Filecoin's $2 billion, but it stands out far and away from everything else. And then getting into kind of Theta, Render, kind of looking at some kind of AI related things, and then Filecoin's biggest competitor with Arweave, and then some other competitors with kind of, well, Chia isn't a storage network. They use storage as their consensus. Anyway, quickly get out of the kind of 100 million range and average. So I would say average, that's probably accurate, but that's a big market cap, to be honest. Yeah.
All right. I was
compared
like,
to Filecoin's $2
is
billion, maybe
You're
not.
right.
But,
yeah, exactly.
But
it's like we're in that weird in between place of like
this is
feeling
still
like
barely
it's
discovered.
huge and feeling like it's small potatoes at the exact same time.
It is exactly. Yeah. Certainly most normies or no coiners have no idea. Like, speaking of Elon Musk, his general point of view is, where's Web3? I can't find it. What does it do? Kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
And kind of back to that article of, if he really wants it to be the everything app, you were making this point earlier, that if he really wants it to be the everything app, he needs Web3, and specifically he needs DePIN.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I mean, the kinds of things that he's talking about wanting X to do really are only going to be possible in a way that's meaningful, verifiable, transparent, that actually kind of moves the internet in the direction that we'd all like to see it go.
Yep.
If it's using open source, blockchain-based, transparently available information, et cetera.
Exactly.
So just a couple other quick DePIN updates for you. There's something called SDXL, which is an image generator that rivals the outputs of something like Midjourney.
Which is
amazing.
amazing.
It has been deployed on a cache.
Woo!
Also deployed on a cache, and this is noteworthy, within 48 hours of release, Llama 2, which is Meta's latest 70 billion parameter LLM, was deployed on a cache testnet. And that's amazing. And it really underscores the power of open source, right? Open source, 48 hours later, it's on a DePIN network. Turbo ETH, which is like kind of obscures things so you can build apps faster. It has integrated support for live peer video and streaming, live peer video on demand and live streaming. So those are a few of the DePIN updates for this week.
Well, the other one you just kind of skipped over there is that both of those things, that were deployed are on their test net because they're still kind of testing this, but they're getting closer and closer and closer to where very, very soon, I think probably early in August, it's actually going live on mainnet. That is very, very exciting. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what do we got next? Oh, yeah. And then I wanted to just say a little bit about the Turbo ETH thing. I hadn't actually been aware of this until I saw it, and I'm very excited about it because I feel like it's exactly what the kind of Web 2 development community needs. Like, we kind of need to be moving in the direction of creating some standards where we kind of refer
100%.
to, like, we interchange the words standards and protocols, and like Ethereum itself is a protocol and LivePeer is a protocol. And let's say Arweave is a protocol and Filecoin is a protocol. So they're both protocols that kind of do similar things, but there is no standard for how you do storage.
Right.
So in the sense that the language around it, the name of the functions around it are slightly different,
we
et
use
cetera.
protocol and standard interchangeably, and the
You're
distinction.
supposed to be able to, but the industry has adopted the term protocol to describe these things.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The reason that I would say that they're different is that, or I guess I'm thinking of standards in terms of standardization, and that unless the protocols adopt some standardization, we won't have the interoperability that we say Web3 will have.
Well, it's kind of like turtles on top of turtles kind of thing. It's semantics because a protocol is a widely adopted set of standards so that multiple different parties that aren't coordinating with each other can have interoperability between each other. Problem is, we need protocols above the protocols. Basically, because many of these compete with each other and they do the same things.
They do similar
things, exactly. You want to standardize the language around which you would wrap them so that a Web 2 developer can just say, okay, now I want storage. They can just have a library that they install to handle storage, and it uses the same commands for upload and everything else, but there's just flags for I want permanent storage. So it would go to Arweave, and it should. So anyway, all that aside, this is this kind of theory or, I'd love to see it kind of thing. This is definitely a step in the right direction. This is all built around just Ethereum-specific projects, which, of course, the Ethereum community has just decided is Web3. I have problems with that. But they try to standardize around it so that you can have, this is how you do your sign-in, this is how you connect to a wallet, this is how you do, Web3 login or a token login or X, Y, and Z, and amongst those session keys, and amongst all those things is now LivePeer. So very, very cool. Love to see it. It's really important kind of step in the right direction of the standards that we need in order to actually really get there.
Yep.
Yeah. So next, in the kind of more broad Web3.
The story no one could miss this week.
Oh, gosh, yeah. So Worldcoin launched. Worldcoin had been in beta for a little while. They already had 2 million users before they ever launched. And it looks like after a week, it just came out on Monday, and today's Friday. I'm guessing this article was probably written last night. So after a week, they've got another 1 million or so.
Impressive.
That's actually huge growth.
Yeah, I had heard that they have somebody signing up, I think, every 8 seconds, something like that. They're obviously incentivizing people to sign up by paying them, but there were like lines waiting for people to get their irises scanned, which is just wild.
In
I can't
many countries around the world,
really
but not
imagine
the US.
giving up my biometric data so readily. But incentives are powerful, and in places where money is harder to come by, it might be worth it. I don't know.
Yes, indeed. I mean, okay, so if you're not familiar with it already, the point behind WorldCoin and its value prop is that they use these things called orbs that you put up against your eye, and it scans your retina at a super high resolution way, so that, because just like the uniqueness of your fingerprint, your iris is also a unique thing. No one has the same one as you. And to some degree, they kind of prove humanity. I'm not sure how. Like, it seems like you could kind of randomly generate one, and but I don't know.
I
don't want to
that
say
too with AI. I mean, it's funny that like Sam Altman is behind both of them.
Well, for good reason, actually. He wants. In order for AI to work, he needs the world. He knows that the world needs to have some way of understanding the difference between a person and an AI kind of thing, and so this is part of that. But like I was kind of trying to get to the value prop of it is if you can differentiate between people and say this wallet belongs to a unique person and they don't have any other wallet, then you can do certain things with that. The thing that they that they try to sell it on is this idea of UBI, Universal Basic Income, so that literally the token network itself can create that. Part of its distribution of tokens can be set up so that it's a, quote, fair distribution to every single wallet. I have my own concerns about UBI. I don't think it can actually really work, to be honest. It can't accomplish the goals that its proponents want it to. But the other real benefit that it offers is the opportunity for blockchain voting, because what blockchains can be
Proof
good
of
at.
Human.
Exactly. You're proof that you are human. You're not a bot. You're inside a country, if that was a limitation, et cetera, kind of thing.
It's also like one person, one vote, right? You don't have more than one.
Right. That's the whole idea. Whether that's true or not, we're going to find out. Whether it can be gamed, so part of the mechanism, I think, that is what proves that it's a human is that you can't buy your own orb. You can't do your own scans. Like, the company owns these pieces of hardware, and they create the little events where you can come and sign up and get your iris scanned. And so because of that, there's some amount of some authority figure agreed that this scan came from a person standing in line, kind of thing. So maybe in a few years, when androids are completely indistinguishable from us, it'll be able to dupe the person in line, but I don't think we're that close to that. But it does underscore some security issues that Vitalik actually spoke to. I mean, mainly his main conclusion really is that there's no actual way to solve these problems. He puts it, there's no ideal form of proof of personhood. There's a few different approaches. They are the social graph based, i.e., I know you personally, and so I can use my signature to sign a statement of yours, and now
get your
I've
neighbors or your friends
exactly
to authenticate you as a
human. Which is a great solution, but it can break down if you have any kind of weaknesses at all. If someone buys some off, then they can create part of a graph that has been faked, etc. And because it's just like trust built on trust built on trust, if there's a break in it, you don't know what's gone beyond that. And the idea is that they're connected to by multiple different parties
that are verifying,
because in order for your verifications to be considered trustworthy, you have to have been verified by some other real person. So the assumption is real people beget real people, beget real people, beget real people, and then eventually
me and our friends get together and we verify a fake person, and then
and then we can use that.
But then
you could, but then the idea is you're not the only one that has done so. Like, your trust is dependent on how many people have verified you and how many different disparate social groups have done so. So if you've only been signed off on by one social group, it's less trustworthy, kind of thing. So it's problematic, but it's a maybe. I think it's probably the only one that really can eventually maybe ultimately solve this problem. But anyway, so that's the first one, social graph based. Next one is general hardware biometric, and then in this particular case is an example of specialized hardware biometric. And really, the weakness that he kind of points out to that is because this company controls this piece of specialized hardware. There's trust there, exactly. That we don't know. Like, their software could be open source, but what exactly is running on the hardware, we can't know with certainty. And so they could have backdoors in there. There could be any number of different ways in which, and it could potentially lead to a vulnerability or a leak of your biometric data. They promise that it can't. The software says that it can't because it's open source. But again, we don't know what's running on the orb itself. So whether the orb intentionally or otherwise, like maybe even without their knowledge, the manufacturer that built it for them adds one little chip. Like, the size that you can make a chip at this point is so infinitesimally small that you could even have someone go over the board afterwards and make sure that everything is clean and have missed the fact that it's got a little spy chip on it. Right. So without them knowing, it could in fact be keeping a record of everyone's irises and then sending them off to whoever wants them. And that's generally the concern, that when you're talking about a specific piece of hardware that doesn't necessarily have open source firmware, or you're not watching the firmware get installed, you can't know with absolute certainty that every single one of those things is not compromised, and the implications of that can be problematic. So who knows? It's definitely interesting. It definitely creeps me out.
Just a note for people like me who are curious if it worked kind of like your fingerprint, where like your iris becomes this like way that you access your keys or your wallet in this system. It's not like that. It's used as the single instance of I think wallet generation.
Yeah.
And then from there you have private keys and whatnot, just like more like a regular wallet. It's not like your fingerprint on your computer where you're using it to log in every time. Honestly, that would be really convenient, and maybe they should
And
make
there's
a
plenty
device
of,
like
yeah,
that, you know,
they
that,
have.
like that's how you
Not
control
they,
your
but
private
different
keys or
they.
something.
There's plenty of people that use biometric scanners. You know, obviously the fingerprint is the most prolific, most, you know, but I've definitely seen iris scanners as just a USB device that can connect to your computer as your own little biometric device. So it's an interesting approach
for wallet
to
keys?
unlock yourself. You could do anything with it, you know.
Okay.
If, you know, whether
Okay.
it's to unlock your computer or to, you know, be your password manager.
So,
or, you know, connect it to a
theoretically,
wallet.
it's less creepy somehow because they're supposedly not even storing the image of
But they
your
claim
iris.
that they're not, and the whole point of
We
that
don't
it's on
know.
proprietary
Yeah.
hardware means you can't know with absolute certainty, even if they don't intend to, and they never commissioned it. Whoever
Even
manufactured
if they
it for
they
them
might
could
not
have.
even know that they are. Yeah, that's so wild.
Exactly. So you never can be quite sure when it comes to proprietary hardware.
Yep.
You know. Yeah.
All right. Well, hopping over to Web3 regulatory news, it was a historic
Ooh, yes.
week for crypto regulation. The House Financial Services Committee and the House Committee on Agriculture passed 4 digital asset bills out of their respective committees. This is the first time that crypto regulatory bills have been voted out of committee and are on their way to a full House vote. Super exciting for all of us who have been just waiting for regulatory clarity. So let's jump into what each of these bills are. The Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act.
Which, of course, they're all calling fit for the 21st century, and
Fit
I
for the
continue to
21st
call it fiat for the 21st century. But I might be wrong.
That and is just you can't
can't
ignore
ignore
the
it.
and. You often ignore a word like that in an acronym.
I know.
All right. So the Fit for the 21st Century Act establishes a regulatory framework that increases the CFTC's oversight, and it clarifies the jurisdiction of the SEC. The Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act is, I think this one was submitted by... Yes, the sponsor of this bill was Congressman Emmer, who has just been a champion for the crypto regulatory movement. And this bill exempts from certain financial reporting and licensing requirements blockchain developers and providers of blockchain services
Big deal.
that do not take control of customer funds.
Thank goodness.
This bill did not get the attention that it deserved in terms of what it means for developers in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. I remember specifically that was the problem that everyone pointed to when it was first introduced. Like, this could get a lot of people in a lot of unintended trouble. So thank goodness for that change. Yay.
Yeah, exactly. The next bill is the Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act. And I'll just note that we did not, at the beginning of yesterday, think that this bill would be making it out of committee. But after 13 hours of markup, it finally passed with a 34-19 vote.
Is that
This
one?
bill provides...
Is it the stablecoin bill? Mm-hmm. Okay.
This bill provides a clear regulatory framework for the issuance of payment stablecoins. Maxine Waters has since made statements about how this is a bad bill. In her opinion, I think McHenry is the person that put forward this bill. Anyway, it's going to be an important bill for all of us. Frankly, people think about, we like to talk about how DePIN is its own kind of sector of the cryptocurrency industry, but it's distinct from, let's say, DeFi, right? It's like financial services, infrastructure services, but we need the financial services to be allowed to function in order to pay for the infrastructure services, right? Like they really are interconnected in that way.
Yeah, I would say the only way that we're going to really see Web3 kind of like deep down, integrated into the way that people interact with the web is if they're still able to just think in terms of fiat currencies like the dollar or whatever their local currency is and stuff like that. And their wallet holds whatever the reserve currency is, probably Bitcoin or, whatever.
Will it be
and then auto trades?
Fiat currency is what we think in, or will it become,
eventually it'll become
sats
Bitcoin,
or
I think.
something
Yeah.
like that?
I think
Right.
it eventually will.
That's
but one way or the other, you need to
unclear.
have some sort of a stable coin that is separate from either the crypto reserve coin until and unless, but that would be a decade out at least. I think that people are thinking in terms of Bitcoin. It's got to overcome this
Right,
$100 trillion market.
Right, yeah.
But then you can't necessarily be thinking about like the cost of storage denoted in Arweave is too hard to keep track of in my mind. So I want to be thinking in terms of a stable coin and then have some mechanism behind the scenes automatically trade for me right at the point that I need it. And so DePIN and every other derivative of blockchain technology has a clear dependency on stable coins being available and part of the overall stack. So I totally agree.
Right, exactly. And then the last bill of the 4 is called Keep Your Coins. This was Representative Warren Davidson's bill, and it ensures that customers are allowed to maintain custody of their digital assets in a self-hosted wallet. This bill is essentially a response to what happened with FTX because they didn't offer, all of their products didn't have that capability, and this would is meant to address that issue. I thought it was noteworthy to just say that Brian Armstrong tweeted support for the Fit for the 21st Century Act. There have been a lot of people in the regulatory space in particular who have said that it's historic and wonderful that we have progressed to this point, but that the Fit for the 21st Century Act still is imperfect and needs some further changes. But Brian said, this bill should pass and encourage people to reach out to their representatives to express their support. And I also just at that point,
might someone do that?
Yeah. I wanted to call attention to Coinbase's legislative action portal, because it's just a great tool that helps you to find your representative. It gives you a breakdown of anything that they have said, positive or negative, about crypto. It gives you a kind of score about where they fall in terms of their support for crypto, whether positive or negative. And it gives you a couple of clicks to access or to be able to send them right there. You click that, and then it will take you to this portal to easily send a note to your representative saying that you support crypto. So the more of us that do this, the better. It sounds very 1900s to write to your representative. And yet it's something that still has a meaningful impact and can still help to change minds. So something to consider taking on. Yeah.
I honestly didn't expect we were going to see so much good news.
I know. It's such a big week for
They kind of
crypto.
just wrapped up. Now they're off for 6 weeks. So
Right.
I see nothing else for a little while. They get to take their nice little vacation. I mean, they don't call it a vacation because they're back in their home districts. But they're away from D.C. for
Summer
6
break.
weeks. It'll be a good opportunity for those that don't know about it already, since we now have those 4 bills that are going to be moving to the main floor. Everyone that doesn't know about it yet will take this time, hopefully, to actually do some learning. And so if any of you have a representative you can use this little tool to find out how supportive they are. If they're already hugely supportive, you can just call them and say, hey, we love your support. I'm really glad that you're there. If they aren't supportive, perhaps you can schedule a meeting with your local representative to help them, to teach them about it, to tell them what you love about it, that kind of a thing.
Give them a call, anything like that. Those kinds of
participate in your democracy.
Personal,
yes.
Communication from constituents. It has more impact than you would be surprised.
Yes. Agreed.
Final note on the regulatory news: the Fit for the 21st Century Act bill was able to pass because of 6 Democrats who voted for the bill. Mm-hmm. The average age of those 6 Democrats was 46 years old. Mm-hmm. And the average age of the rest of the Democrats that did not vote for the bill was 61.
Yeah, and I think it was, what's her name? Ranking Member Waters was very against it. I think she's in her mid-80s or so. And I don't expect 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds that are looking at the end of their lives to have a necessarily entirely open mind, but also even the capacity to learn enough about these new technologies to care enough. No, it's not so much like mental capacity. I just mean like we run into this with, say, like our parents' generation. Like they're just less inclined to learn about a new technology even, a new, VR,
I think
AI,
it's temperament based. I got to stick up for the,
Agreed. Certainly there's some that love it and can't stay away from anything new
I mean,
and
my
emergent.
grandpa has passed, but he had a computer early on. He sent me emails. He loved to play solitaire on his computer. But it really does just highlight how much age is a factor when it comes to caring about cryptocurrency. And a big part of that is because of the disparity between just the economic opportunity in the different generations. And the younger generations care about cryptocurrency because it opens the door to a kind of prosperity and opportunity that our generation really hasn't
Agreed.
ever
Yeah, we've been told about it.
Seen in front of us,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I remember when I got my very first paycheck and thought to myself, like, wow, there's so much of my paycheck going to taxes and Social Security, and I will probably never receive Social Security.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, I knew that in my teens.
Probably because of your grandpa.
And so the possibility that crypto opens up just to kind of fix some of the things that are broken about our monetary system is much more meaningful to the younger generation.
Exactly.
And therefore something that, people are willing to get behind and kind of cross party lines to support.
And thank goodness for them doing so, because that was exactly the concern that without Republicans lead the House side, and they've definitely been showing over the course of this past year more of an inclination to support cryptocurrency and advance it forward kind of thing than the Democrat Party has. But the fact that they're willing to show bipartisan
it wouldn't have gone anywhere,
exactly,
couldn't have
exactly.
passed.
It's still going to make it through the whole. So
thanks, guys.
This is a very good move.
We appreciate you.
Yes, and it is interesting that they're all aligned on that particular metric, that they are in fact significantly younger than those who are against it. So there's something to be said about that.
Yep.
Anyway, so congratulations to the U.S. that has happened. Hopefully it can actually make it through the full House. And then, of course, it also needs to, wow, we made it through a hurdle that doesn't actually accomplish anything until it makes it through the House and then also gets passed out of the Senate, which is even more divided. It's literally 50-50. And then they have to kind of merge them and make sure that the bills kind of match up and then not get vetoed. So we've still got a few steps.
Me.
I know, we've still got a few steps ahead of us to get through this. But this is still absolutely historic and significant.
Huge.
And 4 big bills
We
coming
have
out in
been
the same
waiting
week
for
is
this
huge.
for so long.
Agreed. Very bullish indicator. Yes.
Absolutely.
It just means
love to see it.
We want to be moving in the right direction, and we are. So yeah, that's
Absolutely.
very good. That's very good. So that's the week.
Yep, that's our show.
That is the week. Yeah.
That's
so
the week in Web3.
We will see you next week. Hopefully, we have the robot back again. We'll see about that. And in the meanwhile, we're going to sign off with a little song from what is his handle? 15 years of Song a Day Man on Twitter. So everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I've spent 2 years making fun of non-fungibles. It's a sad fact, lack of imagination, can't see far past their nose. Then the poison muskrat scales the net, and even blind man can see. It's not money or crowd, but there's no doubt that it should have been an NFT.
Bye, everyone.